we are back once again with another true crime video. And this one, I don't even know how to tease it this time because there's so many twists and turns. Like, you think you're going down one path and you're like, oh wait, no, we need to go over here. Oh, that's not right either. Okay, we're going this way. It's anyway, you'll get what I mean, maybe, as the video continues. All I will say though is that it took 27 years to finally arrest someone. So without further ado, let's get into the video. It is June 26th, 1987 in Columbus, Ohio, and a woman called Anna Mae Florence was at home, apparently waiting for her sister and her brother-in-law to come and pick her up. They were just going to go out for the day, just have a little shop around. So as her sister and her brother-in-law are approaching the apartment, they suddenly hear Anna Mae scream. And then all of a sudden they hear Anna Mae scream, kick the door in. But when the brother-in-law is preparing to do that, the door opens. But it's not Anna Mae. It's a woman they have never seen before in their life. And she's running. She's trying to make a run for it, covered in blood. The brother-in-law is trying to keep her there, obviously, because who are you and why are you covered in blood and why are you in Anna Mae's apartment? But because she is covered in blood, she slips out of his hands. He chases her, but no luck in catching her. One of the main reasons why he stopped chasing her is because she said, if you don't stop chasing me, I will shoot. Say no more. When he came back, they both entered the apartment and saw that Anna Mae was laying on the floor, covered in blood. Not only that, they saw that she also had a cord around her neck. She was conscious when they got there, and they asked her, who was that? And she said, I don't know. And then she sadly slipped away. Like I said, they found her with a cord around her neck, but that wasn't the only thing. She had been beaten up, she had been stabbed, and left in a pool of her own blood. Quite a bit of evidence was collected from the scene, but the main bit that they were focusing on was a little portion of a fingerprint on the wall. It wasn't a full fingerprint, it's almost as if it was kind of just a swipe, you know what I mean? They didn't put their hand on the wall, it was just a passing thing. So they cut out that portion of the wall. It was drywall, not concrete wall. Ow. And used the fingerprint as their main source of evidence. Like I said, this is the 80s, so there's not much you can really do in terms of DNA and stuff like that because it wasn't a thing. So all they could really go on was the fingerprint and interviews, witnesses, that type of stuff. Some witnesses did say that they did see a young woman going around door to door, dressed really nicely, asking for money, which one witness said was for a funeral. Once they were able to get a full description of what this girl looked like, they interviewed several young women from around the neighborhood that fit the description and took their fingerprints, ran them through, but none of them matched the one from the crime scene. It's now 2 days later, so 28th of June 1987, and we are at the Columbus Police Department when they get a phone call from somebody that didn't want to be identified at the time of the phone call, saying, I was at a party and I overheard a woman talking about her involvement in the murder. He said that he overheard her say that she stabbed this woman in the neck, and when he was looking at the woman, he could see that she had scratches and bruises all over her, arms, and he said that he put two and two together and that would have been like the other person trying to get away. After he said all this, he's asked again, do you want to give us your name at this time? And he says, no, not really. He's pushed a little further by saying, you're not a suspect in this. He waits for a second and says, okay, my name is Odell, and then spells it out for them. He originally didn't want to give his name because he had promised that he wouldn't tell anybody. Along with his name, he gave his social security number and his birthday, and also his address. He said he knew who the murderer was, and they asked for her name, and he said Danita Campbell. So Odell is now at the police station and they're asking him how involved he wants to be. So they ask him, will he consider wearing a wire to help them? To which he answers yes. But very soon after, he no longer wants to be involved and he is impossible for the police to contact. Like, they lose all contact with him. Okay, now they don't have Odell, they're now interested in tracking down Danita. They managed to track her down with a traffic stop. They got her out of the car and took her fingerprint. Obviously, they're expecting there to be a match here with the one from the crime scene, but it's not. Obviously, they're not going to completely rule out Danita here because Odell calls, says, I heard her saying it was her. She fits the description that everyone else has said the suspect looks like. And also, the fingerprint from the crime scene is only partial. It's not a full fingerprint. This does not rule her out at all. But it means they can't do anything. So it goes cold for 27 years. So now we are going to jump forward 27 years to August 27th, 2012. We're still in Columbus, Ohio, and their main suspect is still Danita Campbell. They found 6 tapes. There was actually a second interview with Odell. That wasn't brought up in any of the investigation so far. So now they're turning back to their main informant, Odell. They wanted to talk to Odell again because in one of the tapes, they asked him if there was anything else he could say, and he said that there was a welfare check in Anna Mae's bag. They asked him if Danita Campbell had taken the check, and he said no, she left the check and the bag. How would he know this information if he hadn't been told by Danita? Because this wasn't leaked to the press. It wasn't like public knowledge. It was a very small, precise detail that only the murderer would know. They just desperately needed to find a way, any way, to place Danita at the scene of the crime. Because the fingerprint on the wall wasn't doing what it needed to do. They checked other things of what could have possibly been somewhere that she could have touched. And they found a jar of mayonnaise on the chair. I know, a jar of mayonnaise. Why would she touch the mayonnaise? I don't know. They saw the jar of mayonnaise and thought, oh, maybe she touched the mayonnaise. So they picked up the jar of mayonnaise and checked it for fingerprints. And they found one on the glass bit at the top of the jar. On the glass bit on the top of the jar? It's all glass. On the top of the jar, just under where the lid is, there, they found a fingerprint there. So they took the fingerprint sample, scanned it through, did all the checks, but it wasn't a match. But like I said, they wanted to talk to Odell again. So they paid him a visit, sat him down, and played him the tapes. You can hear him say his name, spell out his name, say his address, and spell out his address. After hearing them, Odell said, yeah, that's my name, that's my social security number, that's my address, but that's not me, that's not my voice. And at first they were like, yes it is. We have your tape, what do you mean it's not you? And so he said, everything, every detail in that is me, but that's not my voice, that's not me speaking. And obviously they don't believe him, they're like, what? And then he says, he's spelling out the address, Edinburgh. And they say, okay. And he says, the way he's doing that, I can't do. I can't read or write. They straight away believe him, that he can't read or write, and that this wasn't him. So they obviously ask him, do you know who that could be? Like, who knows this type of information about you? So he plays the tapes over and over, listening carefully, and eventually he sits up and says, you know who that sounds like? My cousin Chris. Now apparently when Odell would go and apply for jobs, Chris would go with him and fill out the forms for him, because obviously Odell can't read or write, meaning that Chris knows all that type of information about him. So remember when I said that Odell had gone to the police station back in 1987? That was Chris. They didn't decide to check if this is actually Odell sitting in front of them. They just took it as is. Yep, this is Odell, this is the guy that we were on the phone to. What you got? They didn't check any IDs, nothing like that. I thought that was like something you had to do though. Like I thought, am I stupid? I thought you'd just you'd get ID'd at a police station. Am I wrong? I haven't been in a police station. I'm a very goody two-shoes type of individual. This isn't about me. Let's move on. So now they know it wasn't Odell and it was Chris that was the main informant. They decide to track him down. And they do. They show up on his doorstep and knock the door. His mother opens the door and Chris is on the sofa. So they question him, and apparently he was looking nervous. When they were questioning him, he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. He denied anything about a tip. He denied anything about the whole Odell situation. He just denied everything. And it wasn't until his mother turned to him and said, this has gone on for too long. You need to tell them anything that you know. And this is where things just... You know at the start where I said we just keep going down different paths? We're going down another one. I'm sorry, we're going down another one. He admits to being the one that gave the tip. He admits the whole Odell thing. He admits to knowing who Danita is, but says that Danita is innocent and that it was actually somebody else. And then he goes into detail about an interaction he had with a girl he knows the day after the murder. He said that they were friends and that she came over and they sat on his front porch. He said that she started by saying that she owed a drug dealer some money and that she was going around the neighborhood asking for money. And that when she got to Anna Mae's house, Anna Mae gave her a few dollars, but she could see that there was more money in the purse. So that is when she entered Anna Mae's apartment and decided to take things into her own hands. After he's told his story about their conversation on the porch, the investigators turn to him and say, we need a real name. And after a few seconds of silence, he says, Zena Robertson. Chris said that he gave the tip back in '87 because he wanted someone to be arrested for the murder, but he didn't want Zena to be arrested for it because she was his friend. You wanted an innocent person to be arrested, not the murderer. You want to be friends with a murderer? To be fair, she wasn't a completely innocent person, Danita Campbell, because he knew that she had been involved in some sort of illegal activities, so pointing the police in her direction made him feel less guilty about keeping Zena's secret. They have Zena's fingerprints on file, and they ran the fingerprints next to the ones they took from the crime scene, and it's a match. So now the police contact the Rome Police Department, and they post a photo of her on their Facebook page, saying, has anybody seen this woman? And not even 2 minutes goes by when they get a comment from someone saying, this is the same woman I see at my bus stop every morning. The investigators now show up at her apartment, and apparently she was visibly nervous. Like Zena knew why they were there. They say to Zena, you've got to come with us. And they take her to the police department and interview her. They just want to see what her responses would be, because obviously they have all the evidence they need that places her there. So they just want to see, what's she going to say? They ask her, was she there? Had she ever been in the apartment? And she says no. It's August 25th, 2014, and Zena Robertson was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for the murder of Anna Mae Florence. Can you imagine going 27 years thinking it's this one person? The investigators for 26 years thought it was Danita, but then this Zena woman was just walking around freely, doing her thing, living her life. After she'd killed someone, I'm glad she was figured out. I'm glad she was arrested, but she had 27 years to just walk around. Obviously, that's no one's fault other than Zena and Chris, because obviously the investigators were doing everything they could. It's just frustrating. I will be back next week with a brand new true crime video, and I hope I will see you there.